Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. Happy Friday. Happy you made it all the way through another grueling week of life itself. God, that's an awful vibe to start the video. No, for real. I hope everyone's having a phenomenal week. It's the weekend. Let me know what you're playing down below. For me, I'm cozying up with a little metaphor again. So good, man. But anyway, today we're gathering once more to talk about Ubisoft, where the situation is flipping in real time, and it just keeps going and going. We're talking about an update on Splinter Cell Remake, but also Ubisoft getting sued. We're also talking about Ubisoft having a strike at their Milan studio. It's still not looking great for the Ubi team, so we're going to talk all about that here and now. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, like I mentioned a few videos ago, like we're just on this Ubisoft train now. We're seeing where it heads. Maybe it stops with the Shadows release. Maybe it gets worse. I don't know, but I'm here to talk about it, so consider subscribing if you're into that stuff. Let's start off at the top with a little bit of lighter news, right? It's been a lot of doom and gloom, so let's start off with some more uplifting things, like the Splinter Cell remake. It's still happening. This comes from Insider Gaming, who has every scoop known to man when it comes to Ubisoft. Whoever is leaking to them is leaking a lot their way. So let's start off here. They write, the Splinter Cell remake is making progress at Ubisoft despite rumors that the game has been quietly canceled. Insider Gaming has learned that the game is being developed under the codename North. In addition to the codename, sources have confirmed that the game is being built in the Snowdrop engine. Previous Splinter Cell games used Unreal Engine 2 and 2.5. Snowdrop has been used to develop games like Tom Clancy's The Division 2, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, and Star Wars Outlaws. Sources have suggested that a release date could come in 2026, but didn't want to be held to that time frame, meaning it could be longer, maybe even shorter if we're lucky. So yeah, with everything going south with Ubisoft, and as we covered in our last Ubisoft update, they're going all in on Assassin's Creed games, with like 10 in the next 5 years of all different sizes and scales and platforms. Still, they're going in on that. Many people are wondering, with a lot of projects that have been in limbo over at Ubisoft. Splinter Cell Remake is one of them, announced like 3 years ago. Of course, the famous one is Beyond Good and Evil 2. I think that's one that if Ubisoft nailed, it could kind of optically get them back on track a little bit of like, hey, it was worth the wait, but can it be worth the wait after this long of a time? I don't know. But hey, you got the anniversary edition out now, so I guess you can go play the original again for the millionth time if you'd like to. But nonetheless, we have Splinter Cell Remake here. I see Snowdrop engine. I'm excited about it on a visual front. I have questions about stealth gameplay within this engine. I know it doesn't define all that. It's really up to the developers to build a feature set for it. But I look at Star Wars Outlaws, not good stealth. It was an engine built with third-person shooting in mind, which of course we have Splinter Cell doing a lot of that, particularly in Blacklist. There was a lot of that, but I just hope that it's really back to the roots of like, remember when Splinter Cell introduced like the darkness meter and you could hide in the shadows? And I hope it's as freeform as what Blacklist introduced, in that I don't think there's many rivals to me personally in modern stealth level design than what Arcane has done with the Dishonored series and then eventually Prey. Just top level stuff that still in the level of interactivity and creativity has yet to be surpassed for me. But Splinter Cell Blacklist came mighty close in 2013. That was a great video game. And honestly, I'm a bit of a Splinter Cell noob. I played Pandora Tomorrow growing up. I remember playing the Xbox demo for it as well. But otherwise, I am totally in the dark outside of a couple of entries in this series. But I was very much looking forward to this remake. Happy to know it's happening. But also, we know it's going to be a while before we get that one. You're going to get your Black Flag remake before you get Splinter Cell remake. So keep that in mind. Next up on the list here, Defiant. This is the interesting crossover first-person shooter from Ubisoft that was designed to be a Call of Duty competitor. And the rumor started off here on Twitter, where Sean Weber said that Defiant is already dead. The Ubisoft research team is actively asking their testers to have another in-house test session and give/repeat their feedback. Multiple sources told that it's possible that the game will end its support after Season 4 if they can't get enough players, which was then scooped up, put on Reddit. That gained a lot more traction. Then it was put up on Game Rant, who I swear would actually report on me taking a dump in the middle of my front lawn if they wanted to. They report on friggin' everything. And then after this, Mark Rubin, who is an executive producer at Ubisoft who works on Defiant, had this to say: to be crystal clear, there are no plans to shut down after Season 4. I've literally been in meetings as of last week to discuss our Year 2 plans, but right now we are super focused on improving the technical experience, which includes netcode, and adding more content for Seasons 3 and 4. We have done very little marketing, so yes, our numbers are down, but that is just to give the team the time to get the game in a better place before we do bigger spends on marketing to bring new players to the game and to bring back players that have left. Oddly transparent, and very much an admission of defeat. I hate to say it, and that's not from the hateful standpoint. I actually think Defiant's pretty good. A lot of ex-competitive Call of Duty players helped with this game in testing. In fact, a former Call of Duty pro in Aches went to go and work on this game directly, and I feel you can feel his hand in this pretty strongly, because this game I thought felt really good to play at launch. Like, I know a lot of people go, oh, it's a COD clone, but very few games do the COD clone well in the terms of game feel. I think of it a lot like Persona, where a lot of games have tried to do social gameplay, but no one gets the flow quite like Atlas. So I thought Defiant felt good to play. I thought that the meta eventually got a little stale. Like, nothing was evolving, nothing was changing. Content rollout was a little bit slow, but the map design was good, which is priority number one for me in multiplayer first-person shooters like this. I know how bad it can get when you have something like Infinite Warfare or Advanced Warfare, as far as I'm concerned, with the way movement works, and it's combined with very small-scale maps where you're spawning behind people constantly. World War II is another one that I didn't think had great maps, but people will disagree with that. To each their own. I just think map design is key, and I thought Defiant had that in spades. So there was a lot there I really liked. Time to Kill felt good. And also, I thought the whole crossover idea of just bringing Ubisoft IP into this first-person shooter was kind of neat. Like, I just liked the whole idea behind it. So, yeah, I enjoyed my time with Defiant. I hope it gets back on its feet, because it's one that I think, you know, out of all of the clones out there, I think the name sucks, and that might have put some people off, because naming is so much more important than I think developers give it credit for. But yeah, Defiant is definitely worth a look when it starts to get back on track. But saying, like, we're waiting to market until this thing is, you know, worthy of playing again is kind of a weird way to frame things, because that's how I'm receiving it, at least. But also just counting on the idea of, like, when we market it, people will show up is pretty bold in today's live service market, where, I mean, every single month there's a new game on the market. Obviously only certain ones catch a major wave, catch the zeitgeist, that sort of thing, but still, I hope things work out for the best for them, right? Next up, what we got here is Ubisoft being sued, allegedly for sharing Ubisoft Store and Ubisoft Plus user data with Meta. As reported by Bloomberg Law, this comes from Video Game Chronicle. The class action complaint accuses Assassin's Creed publisher of sharing personal identifiable information, or as we'll call it moving forward, PII, with Facebook company Meta. According to the complaint, players who use Ubisoft's website to buy a game on the Ubisoft Store or subscribe to Ubisoft Plus are having their PII sent to Meta through its Pixel user tracking software. The defendant does not disclose on the website that PII users personally identifying information would be captured by the Meta platforms. Tracking Pixel utilized by defendant and then transferred to Meta, thereby exposing the subscriber's PII to any person of ordinary technical skill who received that data. Data sharing policies for a service or subscription is an important factor for individuals deciding whether to provide personal information to that service. The lawsuit has currently not yet received class action certification, but the plaintiffs are seeing a trial by jury and want financial compensation for everyone affected, as well as a court order instructing Ubisoft to either remove the Pixel from its website or get consent from its users before it shares their PII. So yes, while it's raining criticism on Ubisoft, they're getting sued. You know, the saying always proves to be true. When it rains, it pours. Just continues to get worse, and it keeps on going. So, as I learned with covering the whole Activision Blizzard and Xbox debacle, and of course covering Bethesda's acquisition, I just think sometimes it's best just to watch these things play out and commentate less on them. But it's important you're aware of all that Ubisoft is going through as time goes on. But this last one, I have many thoughts on here. It's another scoop from Insider Gaming saying another wave of Ubisoft Milan employees to leave studio amid strikes. They write, another wave of Ubisoft Milan employees will leave the studio at the end of October following the recent RTO, or return to office mandates, and David Soliani's departure in July. In an internal announcement, it was said that Andrea Babic, who's the narrative director, Salvatore Detrani, who's the senior 3D artist, Riccardo Stucci, associate lead engine programmer, Matteo Bagatti, expert technical animator, Giacomo Boni, the concept artist, Andrea Giuseppe Castriota, the technical game designer, and Lorenzo Di Simone, the senior quest designer, will be leaving the studio, and Milan currently has 100 people employed. I would just like to open up before we finish this article by saying this is awful for Ubisoft. Why is this awful? Well, for people like you and me who loved Mario & Rabbids, David Soliana was the guy who was on stage, like, very emotional about this announcement alongside Nintendo. Like, Ubisoft, as we all know, has done a lot of wrong, but they've done a lot of good, in my opinion. This was like one of the best things they did was Mario and Rabbids. In fact, one of my favorite Switch exclusives is Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battles. And I think Sparks of Hope is another phenomenal entry in that series. And when you have the head of that leave, now you're having all the talent that helped make that possible leave. But as you'll notice with some of the titles I read off, a lot of leadership positions, the main head of these projects is gone. Like, this is really bad for Ubisoft because, again, as far as I'm concerned, when I look at the list of games that they've continued to release, you get occasionally like a Prince of Persia Lost Crown that pops up. It's very different from what they do, very high quality, but otherwise, like, I look at Mario and Rabbids as like the last stuff that Ubisoft has put out where I'm like, this feels authentic, new, different, and exciting. And I played them through fully, like 100%, loved them from top to bottom, bought their DLC. It's really good stuff. Like, I really know a lot of people are going to look at it and go, it's a kid's game. Trust me, bro. Trust me, sis. It's that good. I love those games. They are some of the best Switch exclusives that you can get. So I hope more people check them out. But yeah, the talent for those games are leaving, and that sucks to see. And on top of all of this, Sparks of Hope did not do very well because Ubisoft admitted they did not listen to Nintendo and released Sparks of Hope during the holiday period where it was really crammed, and they said they should have waited. So very interesting admission there. But let's finish up this article now that you have a little bit of the lore here. They say those familiar with the changes say some of those leaving are likely to join David Soliana at his new studio, Day 4 Night Studios. Some decided to leave because of the recent return to office mandates that Ubisoft is implementing across all its studios. Sources say that the return to office mandate has been particularly tricky for Ubisoft Milan employees due to the city's high cost of living. When work from home was introduced during the COVID-19 pandemic, many employees moved from Milan's city center to cheaper places to live comfortably, start families, etc. The resulting RTO mandates have put many employees in uncomfortable positions where they'll again need to turn their lives around, pack up, and move, or risk losing their jobs. Today also marks an 8-hour strike as they report this for Ubisoft Milan, which decided to strike following Ubisoft's decision to mandate stricter RTO policies. Strikes have also occurred at other Ubisoft studios, including Ubisoft Montpellier, Annecy, Lyon, and Paris, with more planning to do so. It's unclear if the strikes will significantly impact the development of Ubisoft's games. Still, sources say strikes will continue if the company is unwilling to work with employees on the issues. You know, usually these things happen like one at a time. Can we just take a moment to say it is unbelievable that at the same time the stock is plummeting, at the same time the sky is falling with Assassin's Creed Shadows, which I'm still pulling for, at the same time as Ubisoft Milan falling out from the bottom, at the same time as all of this occurring, Tencent fully around to be purchased, there's also strikes, they're also being sued potentially. Like, it is unbelievable how much is going south for this company at once. That's why I said at the start of my coverage of Ubisoft, I said, I am so deeply fascinated by how poisoned the well is, that it is falling apart at the seams, falling apart piece by piece. It's fascinating. It's unbelievable to watch. Like, as someone who's just, you know, I love video games and I love to talk about video games more than the news of video games, but just as like an enthusiast, someone who studies the industry, this is a remarkable collapse that is going to take a lot to come back from. And again, obviously, it's one of those things where things feel a little more extreme as you're watching a company fall apart piece by piece, where certain things like lawsuits get submitted, unfortunately, all the time, and very few do gain traction, especially if they don't have much of a case. That's why I say I'm not much of legal analysis. But if you take that out of the scenario, don't even put any stock into it, you look at everything else that is seemingly happening without trying to come across too rhetorical in the things I'm saying, it's a really bad spot for Ubisoft. And that's not it. We have one more story to go over before we wrap things up here, because ladies and gentlemen, as I'm editing this video, news is breaking about an Assassin's Creed Shadows statue being pulled by Pure Arts. For those who don't remember, this is one of the lead reasons I started covering what was happening with Assassin's Creed Shadows and then eventually more broadly Ubisoft, because with Assassin's Creed Shadows, there was a lot of insensitive design surrounding the game as well as the marketing for the game, and one such thing was a statue that included a broken torii gate that was similar to the one found in Nagasaki in 1945 after the atomic bomb blast, and this is still there in Sano Shrine to this day as remembrance of what happened that day. And so this statue shows up. Obviously, people are not happy about it at all. It is finally been pulled, as well as a statement from Pure Arts, the creators of the statue, who say, We recently released an insensitive design, you don't say. We appreciate and have learned from the concerns brought to our attention, and we apologize for the harm this caused. After reading and processing the feedback, we have immediately returned to the drawing board and are currently reworking the design of the Collector's Assassin's Creed Shadows, Yasuke, and Naue. Stay tuned! To which, when they were asked about refunds and stuff, they said pre-orders have not been canceled and you'll receive an email soon with more information. So what they're trying to do here is make sure that they don't lose any money out on it. There was no word on refunds. There was no word on pre-orders being canceled. They're just like, hey, we have your money. We're going to make something different. You're totally going to want to keep this pre-order because of that. So just heads up in case anyone out there did actually end up pre-ordering this. But an update on what really brought my attention to what was going on with how bad Assassin's Creed Shadows marketing really was. Unbelievable, but nonetheless, situation continues to get worse. I look forward to seeing your thoughts down below. Y'all have an excellent weekend. I will catch you on Monday with our next video. Until then, stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.